Hello. So to get some things cleared up first, I know this video will seem out of left field for a lot of people. This is a topic that I guess this book, in particular, would be rather strange for a lot of people to listen to or receive any sort of analysis by me about it. So, just a little warning that the contents of this video be rather dark, and if you're younger, I would not watch this video, and if you are sensitive to disturbing topics, I would also not watch this video because it is not a book that is of the most positive light. Now, with that out of the way, I wanted to first start off with a common misconception of the ending of the book, or at least what I see as a common misconception. If you look up the ending of the book Blood Meridian, you will see that almost everyone seems to have a sort of universally accepted consensus on how the book ends, with that being that man, after refusing the judge's advances to dance, as he says, the man ends up going to the bathrooms, of which he is assaulted by the judge and expectedly killed by the judge. And then the judge has his own little scene at the end where he's doing his whole I'm immortal and I'm never gonna die type of thing. But I just want to kind of clear up this misconception. I know everyone seems to believe this. Almost any sort of YouTube video analysis of the book or mention of the ending of the book in particular seems to be latched onto this idea that the man is brutally murdered by the judge, and that's all that there is to it. And I have a differing opinion of this ending, which it's the main reason I decided to make this video. I'm not going to try and dissect the speech the judge made before that, nor am I going to try, at least not yet, to create an analysis on any of the other topics mentioned in the book, but just this ending specifically is what I wanted to speak on. So, just to get some context in there, essentially, after the man talks to the judge and decides that he wants to go off on his own, he goes up to the brothel, which is, I think it's upstairs or something like that. And once he's done there, he decides that he needs to go to the bathroom, which is a situation that's intentionally created by the judge, because if you've read the ending, you will know that the judge consistently tells the child, or the man in this case, sorry, to keep drinking the alcohol. In fact, in the specific line, the judge says, "Drink up," he said, "drink up. This night thy soul may be required of thee." So, you can interpret that as you will, but in the most basic sense, this is the judge specifically telling the child, or the man, sorry, I keep calling him the child. He's telling the man to drink more alcohol. And what does alcohol do? Well, not only makes you reckless, but it also makes you need to go to the bathroom a lot more often. So, you could say that he's intentionally setting up a situation where the man is eventually going to have to go off on his own in a mostly secluded area where there is no easy access should he be trapped to get outside. So that is one good argument that I could see for this idea of the ending, but the thing is, the book is set up in a way where the man, for all intents and purposes, survives everything that he encounters. Near the beginning of the book, he survives the knife fight, he survives the later adverse attack by the Indians on his sort of American Army Patrol group. He survives that. He survives the whole outrunning the Mexican army. He survives every single encounter that people die who are much older and much more capable, or at least seemingly capable, than the man. Yet he survives it all. Why? Because he's destined to. The whole story is involved around the fact that this is a story of destiny and fate. And that the whole dancing, I know I said I wouldn't try and get too much into the whole last sermon. This is kind of necessary to explain my specific view on the ending. And so the whole overarching theme of destiny and the fact that the man seemingly refused destiny is what really leads a lot of people to come to the conclusion that, okay, so he denied destiny, so destiny straight up kills him. But that doesn't quite make sense because there are multiple instances in the story where the kid makes a choice that directly goes against some sort of moral or ethical code. Now, later on, he decides to try and better himself, but most of the situations, he's put there because he decides to go back to these, like, horrific people. He decides to go back to Glan's gang when he could have run away, when he's get separated by the Mexican police or army. He goes into these situations. While there are times when he makes the better choice, he's more than what he is. Overall, even when he makes these horror decisions, he's not directly punished. It's more so an indirect action or consequence of his actions. And so I don't think it would make sense for McCarthy to just straight up kill him off right at the end for a low shock value. I'm not saying that he has any issues killing people. In fact, that's what happens all the time in the book. But what I am saying is that for the man specifically to die at the end and the way that he does not have any sort of catharsis on the story. And I don't think it was intended for McCarthy to create such an abrupt ending for no seeming other reason than just, well, he denied fate. Basically, I'm saying the man does not die. At least not how the story presents him dying. And in reality, I actually don't know how he dies. I mean, he's about, 28 by this time? So he's still fairly young in the context of a lot of his lifetime. So I don't think he dies, not in the story. And so, what do I think actually happened to the man? Well, rereading the last several pages, specifically regarding what is seen as the last moments of the man, it talks about how he goes down there and he opens the rough. So here, I'll quote right here. Then he opened the rough board door of the Jakes and stepped in. And then here, this is the line that makes everyone think that he gets attacked by the judge. The judge was seated upon the closet. He was naked and he rose up smiling and gathered him in his arms against his immense and terrible flesh and shot the wooden bar latch home behind him. Now, you look at that, and that does seem to be concrete evidence. I mean, what else is it? But the thing is, keep in mind, he's partially drunk right now. And the judge is, throughout his entire life, ever since he's met him, has been an ever-present figure, almost omniscient in a way, just always peering in places where, realistically, he shouldn't be. I don't know if that's a direct reference to Judge actually being at least supernatural in any sense, or it's just McCarthy putting that in there to, like, kind of spice things up when it's not actually in the story and it's just maybe the kid freaking out. But I think in reality, that is just some sort of hallucination created by the man when he sees I'll get into what I think he actually sees, but when he opens the door, I think to confront whatever horror is there, that is his way to confront it. And so he imagines the judge being there, because the judge, as proven throughout the story, is a serial child predator and has had close connections to the man ever since he was a young boy. And so I think that's why many people assume that the man is the target, is the victim because of that. But I think in reality, the man in this case is not the target of anything. More so, he is spectator. He's the one who comes across the actual tragedy of this specific scenario. And to explain what I think the man actually stumbled across, we have to go back to right before the judge appears. It talks about the bear being shot, or this traveling family who does entertainment with a bear, and the bear gets shot, and there's a little girl who dances, and the girl, when the bear gets shot, she starts crying and runs off. Well, with the judge in town, and with his known affinity towards children, I think it's pretty obvious what most likely happened to the girl, and I think in reality that is what the man stumbles across in the bathroom. I think he comes across the remains of the girl, and because of how he knows the judge usually acts, that's what he envisions in his mind is the cause of this girl, is the cause of what he's seen. And so I think in his mind he's envisioning what the girl saw when she walked in. Because when reviewing the pages or paragraphs like afterwards, It talks about how the two guys who come across the supposed man's body first see a guy going to the bathroom in the mud outside of the bathroom. Now, you might be thinking, oh, well, maybe the guy going to the bathroom is just some random dude like these two guys are. But I think that is the man going to the bathroom outside of the urinal, because he didn't report it, at least not instantly, of what he saw. I think that's because he's so used to seeing what the judge is like capable of doing and what he's willing to do. It's just worn off on him to the point where he doesn't really see a reason on trying to stop it, or at least not trying to draw attention to it, because the judge is the judge. He'll never get in trouble. Because remember when earlier in the story, before Glance Gang gets killed, when they make their sort of like castle or like fortification on that dam, or on that place, I don't remember what it was, but basically Judge gets in charge for like basically a month or so. When he's in charge, it is, let's just say, you could assume that some very strange practices occurred, because when Glanton gets back, it's mentioned that the judge has chained the girl to the front of the gates, naked. She was a young girl. And Glanton also sees that the judge and I believe it was John, or it was the black guy, and they were both wearing black robes as if they were part of some sort of ritual or something religious. Just not what you expect the cowboy group to come back to, or even a gang of criminals. I think the boy, because keep in mind the boy was still in that like area the entire time when the judge was in control. So he must have been exposed to everything that happened, with the judge exclusively in charge, without Glanton around to sort of change his mind. And so because of that, I think when he saw the remains of the girl, he didn't bother himself with trying to do anything to change it. I mean, he already denied fate. He already denied having any sort of greater purpose that the judge was alluding to. And so because of that, he's just content to do whatever it is that he does and not try to be any sort of hero, at least not in any direct sense of being a hero. And so when these two men come across him, well, he's going to the bathroom because that's originally what he wanted to do. He wanted to go down to the Jakes so he could relieve himself. Okay, so in the text it says, the man who was relieving himself did not look up. I wouldn't go in there if I were you, he said. Is someone in there? I wouldn't go in. And then the text says that he just buttons up his pants and then walks away. The reason why I think that's evidence for the person who walked away being the man is because he's seen so much in a short lifetime. I mean, at age 14, he was riding with some of the worst criminals of the time, and he's seen all the horrors and atrocities they committed. So something as like evil as the remains of a young girl, in the sense, I doubt would shock him that much. And so that's why he's so calm and able to do what he set out to do in that go bathroom. So I think in reality, just to kind of close things off, the statement where it says that the judge reached out and locked the door and that the judge was naked, well, that doesn't really make sense. I mean, we don't really know the time period, so I suppose you could argue that the judge, did it and then ran away and started dancing, but the thing is, I just don't think that makes sense. I don't think that, I mean, how do you miss a big giant naked guy running, especially like a 7-foot just albino guy just running in and out of Jake's really quick? I don't think you do. And even if you don't, I mean, there must have been a scuffle. The abrupt ending of it all doesn't seem right to me, because the story, it's abrupt in the sense that it's abrupt to those who don't matter. The man clearly matters. I mean, that's the whole point of the judge talking to him and him alone. To someone like Glanton, who had nothing, no substance, it had no issue killing him off, because there's nothing really, it was just killing off. It was just destroying the story was just ending an insect that had no real changes within that story's world. Someone like Tobin, who had some significance, the issue is that Tobin was already so far gone at any point of change that even if he did start to try and better himself, whatever impact he could have made was long past his time. That's why the man is the protagonist, because he was still at a point in his life where he could turn around. He could be that dancer that the judge was talking about. I don't think it makes sense for the story to just straight up kill him off just because he denied it, because that doesn't seem to be McCarthy's point in the whole story. The point in the story is that the only reason men like the judge are able to exist is because there's no greater men than the judge that are willing to stop him. The man, if he tried, he could probably go toe-to-toe with the judge and end him. It's mentioned in this book that even when he was a child, he was always a great shot. So I have no reservations that now that he's older and most likely wiser and larger, that he could probably at the very least put up a fight against the judge, a fight that most probably wouldn't be able to do given his years of experience by this point in gunfighting and surviving in the harshest conditions and doing everything on his own. I think that was his calling, that if he did become a dancer, well, his first order of business would be to challenge the judge and kill him. Or at least get rid of the judge in any way he could. But I don't think it makes sense for the story to just kill him off right at the end because he said no this time. Sorry, I'm starting to get a little less focused at the end, but basically, my main point of this is that the man is not dead at the end of the story. He survives. He was the one outside who informed the two other men that they shouldn't go inside the bathroom stall because it's the remains of the young girl who ran off when the bear was killed. I mean, I think everyone subconsciously thought in their head that when they heard the mention of a young girl and then that she ran off and the judge is in town, by this time, I think they could piece together what would have eventually happened to her, but I think it makes more sense now that it just happened right then and there. I mean, no one was keeping an eye on her. It was said that no one could find her. The judge is known to be very quick. When he has a target, he does not wait very long to get rid of the target. I don't think it was intentionally written to make it seem like the man was killed. It might have been. I think it might have been a false narrative there at the end to try and trick some people. I just don't think it goes with the story's message to instantly kill him off at the end. As I said, because the man was still significant. He was still important. Just because he denied fate does not mean he didn't have a role to play. And as I said, the judge, when it mentions the judge in the bathroom looking like he's about to assault him, I think that's just hallucination. That's the man imagining what the girl most likely saw before she was killed. I'm pretty sure that's just the man envisioning, putting himself into her shoes, what she saw before her final moments, because I could imagine that's exactly how he got the girl. Because the thing was with the man, it's strange, because the thing is, the judge seems to be specifically into children, and I know he knew the man at a young age, but now that he's older, I just don't feel like he'd be into that. That's a weird thing to use as evidence, but I think it is worth mentioning. Basically, I think the man survived and it was just a hallucination, and the girl was that one who actually died, and I think the man just probably ends up getting his stuff and getting the heck out of there so that he wouldn't have to deal with the judge again. And I think the story ends there because it's inconclusive. I mean, either way, even if you think the man did die right then and there, the judge is still alive. I mean, the book directly states him stating that he will never die, so at the very least, there's just a force of evil just going around doing whatever he wants because there's no one to stop him. And that in itself is an inconclusive ending, but why wouldn't McCarthy want to make it even more inconclusive by making it factual in the story that there is also a force of potential good that is just roaming around as well, who is most likely going to cross paths with the judge again, and most likely end up in some sort of final confrontation. I know this is a rather stranger video for me to make, and I'm sorry if it seems like I'm sort of out of it in some points because I might be losing focus or losing track of what I'm trying to say. I want to make another Minecraft video soon, but I also don't want to do that. It's kind of weird, but hopefully this wasn't too bad. I just thought that my view of the ending was unique and different and significant enough to warrant its own video because I've never seen anyone talk about this perspective. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I think there is a lot of grounds to offer an alternative ending to this story because this story is unique in the sense that it tackles so many different concepts. It has so many different depictions of life and death and evil and good. Less so good, but more so the lack of good. What would happen in a world where, or not even a world, just what happens when lawlessness is the king. I just really love this story. I think it is my favorite book. I think Cormac McCarthy was an amazing writer. I know many of his books take on a lot darker tone compared to most authors, but I think he's made all the more better for it. So hopefully you enjoyed. Please leave a like, comment what you think about my interpretation. If you agree, if you disagree, if you have your own version of it. Just thanks for watching.